beat off. I had a beat off.
You're not hearing what I'm saying.
Oh, that's okay, Doc, 'cause you're not saying what I'm hearing.
All I'm offering is the truth. Groovy. I'm telling you straight. It's my way or the highway. So anybody wants to walk, do it now. We've got entirely too many troublemakers here. Groovy.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
Listen, buddy, don't start off with your white zone shit again.
Did have shade. So that's the kind of fight it's gonna be. Sorry about it.
It's not Irish. It's not English.
Oh, yeah. Hey, what is the kindest with horses, you know?
It's just, well, it's just piking.
Why don't you just sit there and bleed a while before you taste some real pain?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Free health care for illegal.
Barron is beautiful and he's free.
Roll out. And then roll out. And then roll out.
To me, Corona means Italy.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Man's got to know his limitations.
I love Leo.
I felt really good almost after taking it.
I love Leo.
We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges.
Captain's log.
We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President Mike Pence and his wonderful wife Karen.
Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts, ma'am.
Shut up and never say anything again as long as you live.
He thinks I made it up.
Michigan gave us Motang. Michigan gave us Motang. Michigan gave us Motang. Michigan gave us Motang.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Michigan gave us Motang. Michigan gave us Motang. Gave us Motown, gave us the Mustang.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Would you classify that as a cultural design?
Yosemites, Yosemites. Yosemites, Yosemites.
Butthole!
Yosemites, Yosemites.
Butthole!
They're not allowed to be offensive, unfortunately.
Butthole!
Oh, well, here I am. How are you? Hi. We're actually on time today. It's kind of incredible. I mean, still got the issue with the autofocus. I'm just going to freak it out all night long. But we've had worse problems, honestly. Between the three of us, you, me, and the computer, we've definitely... Oh, thanks. Look at that. And these are working again. I mean, bit by bit. I'm just kind of piece by piecing, trying to make things, you know, a little more functional. And then by the time I'm on the road again, I can take you guys with me. And all will remain right in the world. Until, of course, I have an East Coast gig and my show overlaps with when I have to be on stage and I have to finish the show and just literally race out of a green room onto stage and do an hour of stand-up. But hey, there are bigger problems in the world to have, and I don't even have them right now, currently. Can I start off tonight? And like I said, I will fix this by radio tomorrow, the autofocus thing. And I'll try and stay relatively still. It's aggravating. It's really aggravating. I wish I could fix it right now, but I can't. All right, so we'll just learn to live. We're just gonna deal. We'll just deal. Hi everybody in the chat room. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Hal's from the Isle of Man. Excellent. Thanks for the cheers and all that kind of stuff. I've got to get Twitch open in here. I'm not gonna be able to see anything. Just everywhere. Let's see. Open me up. There we go. I don't want to. No video. No, don't. I don't want to watch someone else's show in the world. Why would I want to do that? It's crazy pants. There we go. Now I can see stuff. Level 2 hype train already on the way. That's good. All right. Cool. So, yeah. Just pretend that you're watching me through the eyes of Professor Xavier when he's having a fit in Logan. If the autofocus thing starts to drive you nuts. That's what we'll do. All right, let's get started. I want to bring up something that everybody seems to have noticed, anyways. About there's a great clip going around of about Sean Patrick Maloney talking to Nicole Wallace. Let's see if I can find that up real quick. Yeah, here it is. So this is, if I may. This is the clip everybody's talking about. It's you know, it's a great exchange. Don't get me wrong. And by the way, I'm a big fan of Maloney's. I like Maloney. And my Maloney has a first name, and it's Sean Patrick. And he makes a great point here. And this seemed to be, I mean, I retweeted this morning and referenced, you know, not only Nunes, but Ron Johnson and all that crowd. And it's not new. I want to show you something real quick. Listen to the clip, and then I want to show you something.
We appreciate the extent to which Donald...
Oh, it's quiet. Why is it so quiet? That's not right. Let's see. Google Chrome, options. There we go. And then somehow it should go into here. All right.
Donald Trump's most intimate political advisors, people like Rudy Giuliani, and even people in the Senate like Ron Johnson, were laundering and trafficking Russian disinformation designed to harm Joe Biden.
Well, I'm so proud that Chairman Adam Schiff and those of us on the Intelligence Committee, you know, wrote into law that the agencies had to issue this report and declassify it. Because now everyone can see what I was getting excited about. And the fact is that they were so comfortable using people like Devin Nunes that Andrei Derkash, a known Russian asset, sent information to Devin Nunes at the Intelligence Committee. We literally had the package receipt.
Okay.
And you'll recall that what prompted that appearance on your show was that I questioned him during a hearing, an open hearing, about what was in the box, what he had received from Andrei.
What's in the box?
Derkash. It was the same information, presumably, that Ron Johnson was trying to spread around using his position in the Senate as the
it's exactly
the chairman at that time of the Homeland Security Committee. So it's extraordinary that Russia's strategy was to spread disinformation using American media organizations like Fox and OAN, but even more alarmingly, senior members of the Senate and the U.S. House like Ron Johnson and Devin Nunes in an effort to launder their disinformation in a way that the media might find credible. Luckily, the media, I think most of it and the rest of us knew what was up and called foul on it. But it's just an extraordinary statement about how the Republican Party has lost its way, that they would somehow talk themselves into becoming, and this is a term of art, useful idiots for the Kremlin, for Vladimir Putin. And let's not forget about Rudy Giuliani either, because all of these...
Speaking of useful idiots, although I would take issue with the word useful. But okay.
People were more than willing to do the bidding of a Russian dictator to try to win an American election. It's breathtaking.
Yes, it is. So the story about Devin Nunes and the package and what's in the box. Ah, come on, what's in the box? Now, I don't want you to look in that box, right? So the story about that, in case people forgot, here's that very story. Let me move that over so you can read it. And this is from July of last year. This isn't something new. This is just, get used to the idea that we're going to see a lot of stories come out over the next 6 to 10 months in terms of the Russians using people like Ron Johnson and Devin Nunes and all this crowd that was known during the Trump administration, but all levers of power were thrown to protect these guys and to keep them from getting the due scrutiny they deserved at the time, other than some limited media attention. And in this one, so this is from Politico. Intel Dems press Nunes for details on anti-Biden package from Ukrainian official. This is the one, and that Intel Dem is Sean Patrick Maloney. Rep. Devin Nunes, the top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee. Not anymore. This week declined to answer a colleague's question about whether he had received derogatory information about Vice President Joe Biden from Andrei Derkash, a Kremlin-linked Ukrainian lawmaker who has worked to foment allegations of corruption by Biden and his son Hunter. This is a dude who sold the phony hard drive to Rudy for $5 million when they were shopping it for $3 million. During a closed-door business meeting of the panel on Wednesday, a transcript of which was made public available Thursday. Ooh. Oh, really? Open link in new tab. Which was made publicly available Thursday. This is last year. I didn't even see this, that the transcript was in there. Sean Patrick Maloney, and by the way, Team Maloney, just saying. And it's not just because I've got a significant amount of Irish blood. Press Nunes about news reports indicating that he was one of several GOP lawmakers to whom packets of information were delivered. Several. Two packets of information were delivered from Derkash in December of 2019 that contained allegations about Joe Biden. This is the whole thing. Derkash has confirmed that he sent the package to Nunes with friends like these, as well as GOP Senators Chuck Grassley. Well, I don't know what he's talking about. I never received every package in my... We sniff it, and if it doesn't smell like... Oh, goodness. Awesome. Thank you so much for getting the Motang tea. Love you too. Chuck Grassley thanks you as well. I swear to God, Chuck Grassley talks exactly like Cloris Leachman in High Anxiety as Nurse Diesel. Yeah, you love discipline. Right. So, and Lindsey Graham. Geez, you think? How come nobody asked? I've never seen an interview where anybody's asked Lindsey Graham about the packages he received from Andrei Derkash. Honestly, I know that Lindsey Graham probably has some sort of compromise on him that's keeping him from, behaving in an American way. But I don't get why some people think that asking him direct questions about a lot of this sketchy crap in his background is off limits. It's peculiar. So, yeah, my question is of the ranking member, whether he's prepared to disclose to the committee whether he has received materials that have been called into question in the public reports from Andrei Derkash, and if so, and by the way, whether he has received. At that point, Sean Patrick Maloney, like a good prosecutor, knew exactly that he had. He knew he couldn't say they had. He was like, but, it's been reported publicly. If so, whether he is prepared to share them with the rest of the committee, Maloney asked. Does the ranking member wish to respond? Asked House official Adam Schiff. No. Maloney responded by suggesting Nunes' refusal to answer speaks volumes, indicating the committee staffers are, quote, in possession of evidence that a package was received. This is from last year. This is from July of last year. That's what I'm talking about. Like the amazing stories that are going to unfold now that the details of which will not be hidden behind a phony wall of security of secrecy by the Trump administration or by Republican sycophants of the Trump administration because they do not have the ability to stop that stuff anymore. That's going to be the rolling storyline over the next 6 to 10 months. And I'm for it. Just saying. All right, let's get into our vids for today. First of all, we'll wait on that one. Fox is doing, they're doing their best to try and reclaim that mantle of disinfo that OAN and Newsmax snatched from their gnarly grasp last year. Let me try this up here, and I want to make sure I can see the chat room. There's so much going on, and thank you guys. Level 5 hype train at 277%. You guys are amazing. Holy smokes. All right, and replying to everything, feel bad for you guys from Canada and sad to see what the Republicans are doing. Makes me sick. Brad Pitt knows what's in the box. He clearly does. And Brad Pitt wouldn't have anything to do with Andre Derkash. I'm just saying for the record. Hold on. I don't know why my grid is over here. Let's see. There we go.
You lied to me.
No, that wasn't the one I was actually looking for, but it made me laugh, so I don't really care.
So that's the kind of fight it's going to be.
Yeah, so there's Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt got a look inside the box and said,
"Did have shade."
So here we go. Let's dive in, shall we? Oh, I've got my things over. There you go. That's better. Says a lot of. I'm working with very small screens today, so please forgive. On the road, I'm going to find some way to bring a green screen with me, so we'll have kind of the semblance of the regular show. Believe me, we'll figure it out because you guys don't need to see this is kind of quaint. It's my dad's office, so that I'm using. But you guys don't need to see umpteen ramadas. I wouldn't do that to you. What a dick move that would be. All right. So, there's a lot going on. Biden trip going up the stairs. Junior posted a meme that he was knocked out by a golf ball from his dad. Everybody's like, a violent attack on the president by the former president. And the junior, they're scumbags. Who cares? Honest to God, don't give them oxygen. That's just dumb. Seriously. Honestly, when the Trumps post a violent meme about anybody, and they do quite often, like his dad beating up CNN, all that stuff. Oh, nice. Motang. When they post those kind of things, honest to God, they are mockable garbage. There are certain people where you're like, if they posted a threatening meme, you're like, oh, that person could possibly carry that out. That is a dangerous individual, and therefore we should be concerned. Or they have, specifically followers that will take the cue and go. And in the case of the Trumps, that's, marginally Q and militia types, they don't need any more provocation from these dumbasses. So it's not going to affect anything majorly. And every time they post it, just like Putin's thing yesterday, it's a sign of weakness. It really is. And it's very telling that China and Russia both responded to Biden's slights in a similar way, from a very defensive standpoint, right? And kind of like a lot of bravado. You don't do that if you've got power, if you've got strength, right? So it was an interesting sign. But all this stuff is happening, the China-Russia response, yada, yada. And yet Jim Jordan is still pushing freedom of speech as all right, you'll see.
And good evening. Welcome to Fox News Prime Time. No one's welcome.
No one's welcome to Fox Prime Time. No, not even the hosts. I mean, it's a miserable experience. Everybody there. I've been there. Everyone there is, at best, a soul-sick, money-grubbing asshole, and at worst, walking around in a pig pen-like cloud of depression all the time, or so dumb they don't notice everyone around them walking around like that. These are the three categories of people who work at Fox. And I know people who used to work at Fox who don't anymore, and when they were there, they were horrifyingly miserable and trying to make the best of it, but they could just feel their soul being sucked out of their body, and were like, I got to get out of here.
I'm Maria Bartiromo. Tonight, the state...
By the way, can I just say for the record, I'm a little jealous of her updo today, although I can't tell if this is filmed upside down. She looks like somebody sprayed her hair and she's hanging upside down and they're just turning the camera right side up. This is kind of weird, like mechanical poof. Seriously, somebody was seriously like, we have to get this up. This is a look at this. It's a rat's nest.
States fight back. Coming up, a look at the nation's attorneys general.
States muscling up. Are they now?
Who are pushing back on the radical Biden agenda, partly enabled by big tech. Now, governors and states' AGs are demanding answers.
By the way, this clip is brought to you by Fox News' YouTube channel. But please, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. And we saw a tweet about it, and that's how we knew the clip was available on their YouTube. But please tell me again about big tech. I interrupted you. Go on. Big tech.
Florida's Ron DeSantis taking aim at...
Can we stop pretending Ron DeSantis is a real person? I mean, I'm sure he's a human being, but I'm not taking that seriously. That's just silly. He looks like he came in third place in a timeshare competition.
Critical race theories slow creep into our nation's schools.
Oh my God, the slow creep. Oh, right, we're having Jim Jordan on as a guest.
We will take that up later on with former Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows coming up. But first, the battles over Biden's border crisis and big tech dominance playing out in courtrooms across the country. Texas AG Ken Paxton leading the charge.
I love when people read and turn their head to make it look like they're not reading when their teleprompter is not to the side or over here, so they can't turn and do camera A and camera B because that's too much for where they are. So they simply give you one eyeball and another.
Demanding answers from Twitter, Google, and the Biden administration.
Is there really a difference at this point? Let's be honest.
Here's Paxton with me on the program earlier this week.
Oh, great. Playing clips of yourself. That's always...
We've asked Twitter for basically answers that if they're going to operate in our state, they have to answer. It's state law. And despite that, they've taken this to California to ask a California judge.
Point of order, if I may, sir. Can I, let's see. Paxton, AG, Wait, I just want to make sure we got the. I want to make sure we got the right guy. Because I get my Ken Paxtons mixed up. It's this guy, right? Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton states Hoblaw turned himself into jail when he was booked on felony securities fraud charges. Wearing a pinstripe suit and a red tie. From the Roger Stone collection. I'm too sexy for my Roger, too sexy for my... All right, he smiled slightly for his mugshot. I love when there's a little bit of prose in my jail stories. Then he was promptly released. Oh, that's nice. From the Collin County Jail on $35,000 bond, according to the records with the local sheriff's office. Afterward, he apparently slipped out of the courthouse undetected, as you do, avoiding the throng of waiting media and who? Democratic protesters. Did they check with everybody? Or are you just assuming that no Republican would ever protest securities fraud. Yeah. So, thanks, Motang. Offered to sell 2 people more than $100,000 worth of stock in McKinney Technology Company, but didn't disclose the company was compensating him. That kind of stuff. Paxton also didn't make clear that he hadn't personally invested in the company. The indictments allege he received 100,000 shares, but that was in the form of compensation. According to the indictment, he was trying to offload something he knew was a pump and dump on somebody else. He literally trying to, like, he was engaged in a pump and dump. He was part of the pump part of it, and then he was actually personally dumping the stock because he's a moron. All right, so I just wanted to make sure you knew who we were talking about here. You know, in terms of yeah.
About Texas law, it doesn't make.
What Texas law? What do I think when I think of Texas law? This comes to mind when I think of Texas law. Don't you, Ken? How come you don't? It doesn't. Why did you, Maria? Why aren't you bringing up? You're on Fox Business. Why don't you? No. All right. But please.
Make any sense to me, but I guess I understand why they want to be in California, because they don't want to answer questions in Texas, which
I don't want to see. Within minutes, where was this? Afterward, he apparently slipped out of the courthouse undetected, avoiding a throng of waiting media and Democratic protesters. Okay.
It's there ultimately, if they're going to operate here, going to have to answer those questions.
And the questions do.
It was a great interview, Maria. I learned a lot. I mean, yeah.
Not stop there. A 21 age.
States suing Biden administration over Nixon Keystone XL pipeline. I'm sorry, you're going to lose. It's a permit battle.
G's are banding together to save American jobs.
No. What American jobs? All 38 of them? Oh, I forgot. There will be a lot of jobs created in the water filtration and emergency cleanup field. It's a growth industry thanks to Trump.
Suing the Biden administration over its shutdown of the Keystone pipeline. Several other states are fighting the administration in court over its disastrous immigration policies, which have led to a full-blown crisis at the border.
Is it a full-blown crisis? Is it?
100.
Oh, nice. Motang.
1,000 new migrants in February alone showing up 28% from
28%. Good Lord. From numbers during the pandemic. Motang.
January.
I mean, at a certain point, we're just going to have to straight up. I'm going to need to get like a.
Michigan gave us Motang.
I'm going to have to get that to play every time it happens. Okay, so here we go.
Here's Montana's AG on that lawsuit.
Oh, wait. Montana? Oh, my God. The sheer number of voters behind that guy must be enormous. How many votes did he get to get in office? 3,600?
This is devastating for states like Montana, too.
Why?
And frankly, it's put the whole country in danger.
Oh, yeah, because that's what they like. That's everybody shows up at the southern border going, we're just trying to get to Montana. Why? Because we want to get into Canada.
Violent crime in Montana has risen by 48% just since 2013.
Okay.
This is just going to keep getting worse.
Wait. Violent crime in Montana has raised 48%. So instead of 2 Okies killing each other, it was one died and another one died and another one was gravely injured. We're up to 4. I'm sorry. Did the Cheneys go hunting there? Sorry, like, what's for again, guys, remember what I told you about percentages? 48% since the middle of the pandemic, when no one was going anywhere and everyone was staying inside and no one was crossing the border because we had more cases than Mexico.
Under this moratorium order from President Biden, and that's why we've sued.
Okay, so you're suing the Biden administration because crime has gone up 48% in Montana based on crime rates last year? Again, I gotta say, hold on a second. Montana crime rates There's got to be some big, oh my gosh. Neighborhood Scout, Montana crime rates. Oh, okay. So there's obviously this is great. This is what a great website. Neighborhoodscout.com. These are the from safest to most dangerous, and I would go to like with people and without. Here's Missoula and Helena and Polson and Great Falls and Billings and Wolf Point are fucked up. But meanwhile, if you're in Oppenheim, you're pretty not, I mean, accidental death is off the chart, because if you fall and injure yourself, you're just going to die. Just like, it's all just trip and fall off a cliff. Lima's pretty good because nobody in Idaho gives a crap. But apparently, Missoula, terrible. Top 10 safest Montana cities. Crime rates, here you go. Montana annually, number of crimes. Violent crimes, we got about 4,328. Property crimes, that's a lot of, people shooting your mailbox, hitting it with a baseball bat. 27,768 total. That's a 4 per 1,000 residents. See that? 4,328. There you go. That's the thing. That's 4 per 1,000. Look at that. Sorry, Montana, what? What's your, okay. Violent crime comparison per one, okay, compared to nothing around it. Here's Montana. And my chances of becoming a victim of a violent crime are 1 in 247 in Montana. And that's how they pick. They just kind of, flip a coin, 125 times and hope for the best. Let's see, violent crimes, reported murder rate. That's good. So assault and rape are higher than murder and robbery. That's great. They want your body more than your money in Montana. That's creepy. Here's the reported totals in the United States. Obviously, it's lower than the national average here. It's higher than the national average for sexual assault. It's higher than it's lower than the national average by a lot for robbery, because who's going to walk all that way for an old-fashioned television? And then the assault numbers are actually higher. You have versus the rest of the United States, you're statistically your chance of becoming an assault victim is higher in Montana than it is in the rest of the United States as a whole. I'm not seeing a chart on the rise. Let's see, 2021 Montana. Let's just go crime. Oh, this is good. This looks like. Are you sure Mike Lindell hasn't seen this? Let's see. Population's gone up to, right now it's at million. There you go. 27, hovering right about the same at 2019. 27 murders. There were 41 in 2017. 2014, 2015, there were 38. Oh, I see. So 2018, 2019, you're going down, 41, 37, 27. So what we're saying is the violent crime has gone up statistically because what, 9 more people? Okay. So, yeah, just so we know what we're dealing with. Oh, my God. Sorry, too much Tucker.
And just yesterday, the Attorney General of Ohio
admitted that his head is a balloon covered in hair.
A lawsuit over Biden's pork-filled so-called COVID stimulus package. Because
it's not a so-called COVID stimulus package. It's the American Rescue Plan, and it's not just a stimulus. It's actually a recovery and rescue package.
Of the small print mandate in the law that would block states from cutting taxes for years.
Yeah, if they take the money, they can't hand the money out. And it depends on how much money your state makes tax-wise, because if there's a bunch of money, if we give you $4 billion to fix your roads and get projects off the ground and give loan guarantees to people in your districts and that kind of stuff, you can't just turn around and give a $2 billion tax break to the richest people in your state. It's super easy to avoid. Don't take the money.
They are fighting back as Democrats in the majority in Congress work to lock.
You worked really hard on that graphic, didn't you, Maria? Biden and Schumer in a steamroller. Yeah, and there's the Capitol. And I don't know why they don't just put a bunch of red-blooded Americans going like this in front of it.
In their power and steamroll their agenda through Congress. Republicans try.
Oh, because steamroll, because it says it in the graphic. And in case your viewers can't read, I see.
Try as they might, are largely powerless to stop them.
Oh, it's terrible. They're powerless. They're weak. I don't know how they do it.
Republican governors and attorney generals are the
she said since 2013. I know. They play fast and loose. It's fun.
Last line of defense against the ever-expanding.
Yeah, the AGs are really, if it wasn't for the AGs. And gee, let me guess, it's the same AGs who sued Georgia?
Power of the Biden administration. It's big tech enablers and the woke mob cheering them on. So who else is willing to join this fight? Joining me right now to talk more about that is Congressman Jim Jordan.
Oh, thank God. Oh, good. And by the way, thanks for hanging that American flag really quick to cover the fact that, you have the kind of posters you would see in a repair shop or a firehouse in the 80s.
And he is calling for a hearing over big tech's role in cancel culture, as well as a hearing on the administration's role in...
Oh, he's calling for hearings, is he? He can't just make them happen? Why is that? Oh, right.
Creating a crisis at our borders. Congressman, it is good to see you tonight. Thanks very much for joining us.
You bet. Good to be
with you. So I understand that in the first...
You understand zilch.
First 74 days of the new 117th Congress, you've had no hearings in the Judiciary Committee.
Not one.
Is that right? And what have you and your colleagues been doing?
Yeah, what have you been doing, Jim, in all this time? Honestly, you haven't been you've been pressing your shirt?
Well, they've been taking bills around the Judiciary Committee straight to the floor. Almost every piece of legislation that's passed in the last 3 weeks, we had jurisdiction over. But the full committee is yet to have a hearing. We've said, why not have a hearing about this crisis on the border? Instead, they go around the...
Why is the Judiciary Committee having a hearing about a border crisis?
Committee, and they passed just 40 minutes ago, Maria. They passed a bill that gives amnesty to 3 million illegal immigrants.
DACA.
So amnesty...
It's not amnesty. They have a pathway to citizenship.
There's this chaos on the border.
Just just notice how he said that, too. We all know it's DACA. We know it has to do with DACA. Everybody knows it's DACA. Republicans know it's DACA. Democrats know it's DACA. Like, everybody knows it's DACA. But what Jim wants you to think is that 3 million at random. We're just going to set a number, and we'll allow 3 million who come in to become citizens.
This is so out of touch with where the American people are, but this is how radical left the Democrats are.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's off the charts that they would just they're just going to go down to the border and go, we need 3 million. Come on in. Anybody, the next 3 million get in free. Oh, that's not what it is? Oh, it's people who've been living here for 20 years.
And then, of course, the cancel culture issue, this idea.
Yeah, get to that. Because, yeah, there's a crisis at the border, but the real crisis is Dr. Zeus.
That, I always ask it this way. Do you have a functioning First Amendment?
Yes, you do.
When only one side's allowed to talk. Do you have free speech when only the left can define what can be said?
The left doesn't define what can be said. We all collectively used to believe that you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
So that's the situation
Yeah, that's the situation we're in?
The Judiciary Committee should be focused on those two issues. Instead, they pass radical things like defund the police, federal control of elections, and now an amnesty bill without having the kind of hearings you're supposed to have on Capitol Hill in the United States.
None of which have to do with the Judiciary Committee.
States Congress.
By the way, they'll have hearings in the Judiciary Committee because they're going to be passing they're going to get a bunch of judges through there soon.
So what's the response, Congressman? You're the ranking member on the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, he's pretty rank.
You've got jurisdiction over...
Yeah, he's a dick, yeah.
For immigration law, you managed the floor debate today for 2 Democrat-backed amnesty bills. What, you're not being heard?
Well, no, we call them out on the floor.
I don't even
have a robust debate on the floor. In fact, the one in...
What's the robust debate part?
The one amnesty bill is so bad, it gives amnesty to 3 million illegals, and at the same time, it has taxpayer dollars used to help illegals apply through this grant program, apply for amnesty itself. So, I mean, such a deal.
It's DACA. It's simply putting rubber to the road with DACA. This is and that is absolutely a bipartisan supported idea. Seriously.
For the taxpayer. I mean, the disrespect.
Oh, that's what it is. He just feels disrespected. The Republicans, just feel like, they didn't call the next day.
That the
You pass these bills, you wake up, there's a rose on your pillow, and some memories. Who can live with that?
Democrats in the House are showing for the American taxpayer with the kind of legislation there as the crisis is on the border. They're defunding the police. They're attacking American Second Amendment liberties. They're federalizing election law. And as
how are they attacking? How are background checks attacking your Second Amendment liberties? Again, it's that well-regulated militia part. Just sticks with them.
They said they're now giving amnesty to 3 million illegal immigrants.
DACA.
Who are here in the country.
DACA. Who are here in the country? You see it? See what there's that little, who are here already. They are already snuck in. They're just over the border. He's talking about everybody who's in detention right now. Actually, he's not. He's talking about DACA people. But he wants you to think that everybody who just, that there was a barrage of people, hundreds of thousands, crossed the border daily over the last few weeks, and the Democrats have just gone, you know what? We're not deporting anybody. We're just going to keep them.
Yeah, there's also a blackout in terms of the press.
Oh, my God. Look, I know you don't like Don Lemon.
Knowing anything about this as well. We're going to talk about that.
Well, how is there a blackout? He's a congressman. He was there. He can tell you.
Coming up later in the show with Kim Strassel and Karl Rove, where...
Oh, good. All right, Karl Rove. Yeah. Trump's favorite anal carbuncle.
Border agents are being told to zip it when it comes to any information about that.
Yeah, they're not the spokesperson for ICE, DHS, and nor would they be. I'm guessing you guys recognize that when police hold a perimeter, and the press comes up and asks them about, a murder that's happened behind the perimeter, there's tape around the entire thing. You wouldn't be cool with the cops just kind of going, oh, yeah, I'll tell you. What do you need to know? I just heard this from those guys, whatever. No. The detectives and the chief of police will have a press conference to let everybody know what they want people to know so that they don't give out extra information, so that people don't call in and confess and get the information, that kind of stuff. You know that normal part of it? Yeah, they are... The employees and the workers are not the spokesperson for the entire organization, and they are not aware of nor directly in contact with the entirety of the strategy.
Let's talk about...
Never have been.
Big tech, you have made some demands from Amazon. You want Amazon
to deliver on time. He's been waiting for a package.
Hand over documents.
What's in the box?
Documents related.
Hand over documents related to a personal hygiene device that I ordered weeks ago and still hasn't shown up.
To conservative censorship, you've been censored.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's been censored. Guys, he's been censored. How have you been censored?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, what big tech did last fall, what they're doing all the time, but what...
It's terrible. The battle against big tech.
What they did last fall in the election. I mean, the best example, we had two amazing witnesses last week in a hearing in one of the subcommittees of Judiciary, and they talked about the collusion between big tech and certain players in big media where they kept...
Big tech and big media. Of course, Fox isn't big media. They're, in the top 3 all the time, and they were number 1 until... they started, hiding behind Maria Bartiromo.
The Hunter Biden story from...
The Hunter Biden story. Oh, I'm sorry. Was the big media, you mean New York Post?
We the people. And everyone knew that the press knew about this, big tech knew about this, but they kept it from the American people.
No, they didn't. They didn't keep it from the American people. The New York Post printed everything Rudy Giuliani gave them, which was shit. It was 6 pages. What, maybe 8.
As we're getting ready for the biggest election that we had, the presidential elections.
Yeah, why couldn't we have a big Comey moment where he comes out and says there's something to this, and we don't find out there's nothing to it for another year and a half?
So
it worked when got rid of, it wouldn't have been nice if we could have had another Hillary moment.
What they're doing, not only via
what they're doing is learning from the Comey moment.
Cancel culture, but what they did in the election.
The cancel culture? How is this cancel culture?
To make sure Americans didn't get important information, I think is so troublesome. So we're trying to.
Yes, and by the way, chat room, yes, this is the guy who protected a pedophile. Which, in many ways, you know, if you're a pedophile's wingman, you're a pedophile. Right? I mean, how do we know? I mean, it's one thing to look the other way because you can't bring yourself to believe it in one particular case or whatever. But this was multiple cases. Multiple people coming to him saying they were being assaulted and him telling them to be quiet about it. I mean, Jim, how are we ever going to just, I mean, you'll never satisfy my belief that he was staring through a hole in the wall like Porky's. Why would you let it go on that long? I mean, honestly, if you were a person of integrity, you'd have had the guy's job. But you just had to let it keep going and keep going and keep going. And after a certain point, I don't know when it is, after the 5th victim, the 10th victim, the 20th victim, you're a part of it. You're not just the guy who didn't report it. You're an accomplice at that point. Motang. Right? I mean, am I wrong here? I don't know what the tipping point is for you. I certainly don't know what it would be for Jim Jordan. Apparently, it was victim 1. But in terms of the rest of humanity, after the 5th or 10th or 12th or 18th or 21st victim you've heard about that you don't help, it's beyond just ignoring it. You're an accomplice.
To figure out the best way to deal with this, we think Section 230 has to be repealed. And
oh, yeah, try it, dude. Like, this is, like, if Section 230 is repealed, there is no internet. Honest to God. If there are no, like, if Twitter and all these other sites are responsible for whatever you post, Parler goes away in a day. I mean, the place would be sued out of existence, sued into oblivion. Telegram's gone. All the places where the Trumpsters are hiding right now, they're all gone. Because you'd have to get, without the protections given to you by Section 230, you're liable for everything posted. And it's impossible to keep track of that many people. When you've got millions of people posting at a time, and then somebody goes, so I followed the instructions on what I thought was a promoted tweet on your site, and it was just posted, but since you're the editor, you choose what comes and goes, instead of just establishing a terms of service that everybody behaves to and sticks to it, you're seen as an editor. This one stays, this one goes. You move into that zone, everyone that goes up is considered, all this stuff about opinions of guests are not necessarily the opinions of Fox News and all that goes out the window.
And reformed. We also think you have to look at the antitrust laws and the size of some of these big tech companies.
Why? I mean, Facebook buying Instagram, probably the largest, reach over into something else. But effectively, there's very little difference in the overall service or whatever. And that's what a lot of tech people do. Build up something, hope they can sell it to a bigger entity. There's lots of options available for you. You're just not guaranteed an audience until it catches on. The reason they're crying antitrust is because there's nobody on Parler except a right-wing circle jerk.
As we move forward,
we need to break up Twitter so that they can only have so many people on, so they have to go to one of the other sites we set up so we can corral them into our bullshit theater like Rush Limbaugh taking over AM radio. It is impossible for them to take over these sites the way they took over AM radio, and that's what's freaking them out.
So do you think you'll be able to be successful with that? You're in...
I can answer that one. No.
The minority.
Even in the majority, no.
We know, obviously, that these big tech companies are not bulletin boards like they said they were back in 1996 when...
No, they're not bulletin boards. They provide a wider service. But that's essentially what they are. By the way, If you want to burn 4chan down in an afternoon, have at it.
They were giving this protection for their any liability. They have actually taken a side. You talked about this.
No, they haven't. They've taken a side of reality. That's not their responsibility that you're anti-reality.
Censorship of the Hunter Biden story during a press.
They didn't censor the Hunter Biden story. It was Russian disinfo. The State Department warned them about it. We now know that Andre Derkash was behind it, that he was feeding it through Jim Jordan and Devin Nunes and Rudy Giuliani and Ron Johnson, specifically to get it into the politics of our country beyond just the social media world. You know who's again, God damn it, you know who censored the Hunter Biden story? The only person who truly censored the Hunter Biden story was Rudy Giuliani. He has the whole hard drive. He won't release it. He could post the whole thing. All of Parler is available for download. But for some reason, Rudy Giuliani won't post the entire hard drive. He gives 8 pages, 6 or 8 pages, it's back and forth, to the Post and goes, ooh. And then he quotes those same 6 or 8 pages over and over and over again with no new information, always promising more information, more stuff. He turns it over to the Delaware State Police and they go, yeah, this is fake. This is a completely fabricated document. This is it's the modern version of a stack of forged documents that you're trying to pass off as evidence. Go pound sand. We'll keep it in case you ever get arrested for trying to, in case there's a libel investigation against you.
Presidential election period. Can you do anything about any of this?
No.
I don't think Democrats want to help us. I think they like the fact that the cancel culture is mostly going after Republicans.
Well, it's mostly going after racists and sexists and bigots and, anti-trans, anti-LGBT in general, people. And the vast majority of those people tend to be Republicans.
And conservatives now.
Well, I don't believe you're a conservative, so I don't know that conservatives are being attacked. There's a lot of conservatives on Twitter. I have relatively frequent exchanges with them on Twitter, quite frankly. None of them have been canceled. They're all there.
But I do think the American people are so fed up with what we've seen over the last several weeks and months, whether it's, Dr. Seuss, Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, that's really what's eating us all.
Well, what happened in the world of sports where they've went after certain athletes for things they've said.
I missed that part. I mean, you got to be a little more specific.
And, I also think they understand.
What, an athlete said something awful? When has that ever happened?
And that in the end, it'll come for them as well. And I always use the example, Senator Feinstein, the San Francisco School Board, even Senator Feinstein wasn't good enough for the woke mob today. They said the Dianne Feinstein Elementary School will no longer be named after the senator because she said something 37 years ago, for goodness sake, that the mob doesn't like. So I do think that there is this uproar from the American people, and at some point, we will be able to deal with this. We could pass the 230 change right now. I just don't know if Democrats are gonna want to do that because they think it benefits them.
Yeah, they're not, and they're not going to pass it because they think it benefits them. It's not. That isn't the reasoning. It's because it would destroy social media in general for a generation. So, but hey, go for it. I feel like I can ride between the lines and create a show that would stay on the air. I'd obviously probably have some language issues occasionally, but I'm fairly certain I could maintain. I don't know necessarily that you could be on any social media after the repeal of 230 for more than 3 weeks without being permanently kicked off because you created a liability for those companies. Can anybody imagine that?
At this point.
Yeah, at any point. So, good night, ding, 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 ding. Good night, ding, ding, ding. Now, Tucker. Oh, God. Now, I've never really watched much Tucker. I know that's a shock. Over the years, I've seen segments and clips that have come up. But until we covered a few weeks ago his opening monologue, which is kind of what we're going to do tonight, because this is, this is the part that came up where he's making his case that, Biden came down hard on Russia, but not China. Meanwhile, by the way, Russia and China both apparently were, insulting Biden because of what he'd said. So apparently China thought he'd slighted them. But, Tucker's playing fast and loose with reality, as he normally does. But what I have noticed in watching a few of these to kind of just get a grasp of what's going on, and maybe it was better when he had his old white supremacist buddy writing his opening monologue. Maybe there was a coherent thread. Or maybe it's just always been that he does a correlation without causation conflation monologue where he says something that's awful, says something else that he wants you to think is awful, and you're supposed to believe that just because those two things were mentioned in the same sentence, they're the same kind of awful. And then he just drifts into another thought. Now, I haven't watched this one, as I'm not going to watch Tucker Carlson twice. Who needs it? But that seems to be, and maybe some other folks in the chat room, do you guys, yes, he's the Mr. Swanson food cash dude. He was born super rich. He's an heir, right? Anybody who's born an actual heir to a fortune, yeah. But please tell me about the blue collar people and the working class. I haven't gotten the letters yet, Amy, but I do believe that they are being sent to me. Yeah. So, anyways, we'll talk more about that. Yeah. Does anybody watch this stuff with any regularity? Used to see any of it stuff? Because it seems very scattered. For all the stuff about, Biden not being able to hold a thought together, when speaking extemporaneously and talking about multiple topics at once, it's possible to weave yourself in such a way that you understand where you're going, but the audience does not, and that kind of thing. It happens with live speakers all the time. I mean, God knows, look at all of Trump's rallies. Didn't seem to upset them at all about his. But Tucker Carlson's opening monologues are written. They're supposed to have a theme, a concept. And I swear to God, either they just roll in 10 minutes before the show and just like refrigerator poetry this bullshit together, or he literally does not know how to comprehend one idea and focus on it for more than 3 minutes. We'll see. Let's watch. No. Here's some music that Tucker Carlson doesn't really listen to in real life, but sounds kind of tough. They all do that. Like all the Fox guys are bow, no, wow, no, wow. And you're like, if you peered through his window when he was sitting at home by himself, once in your life you find someone to turn your heart around. Yeah.
Well, Donald Trump isn't the president anymore, and
well, let's start off with some good news. All right.
That means you haven't heard a lot about Russia recently.
Well, yeah, we have. We've heard a lot about Russia recently. I mean, specifically the John Patrick Maloney stuff. Where is that? Sorry, I'm going to here. There you go. Yeah, like we're Motang. We've heard quite a bit from these morons about like, what do you mean we haven't heard much about Russia? We've heard a lot about Russia. We're going to hear more about Russia. You're going to hear a lot about Russia because now you don't have Bill Barr and everybody in the Trump administration like riding the brakes on this, out of control downhill semi full of intel.
Until yesterday, when Joe Biden gave an interview designed to remind us he's a very tough man.
Did you hear somebody like snicker in the background? Did you hear that? Hold on, back up. Let me see if I can. Dink.
Biden gave an interview designed to remind us he's a very tough man.
One of his writers or his producer loves the line. That's somebody who wrote that. Okay, but this is what we're starting off. That the Stephanopoulos interview was meant to puff Biden up as a tough guy, instead of it's the president of the United States saying to Russia, "Don't mess around with our country." This is something that formerly Republicans would see as a patriotic act, not a personal act by the president. But since they become, the cult of one in terms of Trump and the land and the man are king, then, you know, this is what Biden says about what's going to go on, you know, in terms of our relationships with Russia is about Biden's personal relationship.
So you know Vladimir Putin, you think he's a killer?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So
yeah, he is. What part of that is confusing to everyone? Seriously.
What price must he pay?
The price he's going to pay, well, you'll see shortly.
Putin's going to pay because he's a killer.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he murders journalists. It's something, I mean, beyond, he kills activists. I mean, the Magnitsky Act was literally about a guy who was trying to expose corruption and ended up jailed and murdered in a Russian prison. He's former KGB, FSB. He is a killer. This isn't even a question.
Says the guy who just sent missiles into Syria for no obvious reason.
No obvious reason? They were trucks full of munitions returning to Iraq after the attack to do it again. What do you mean, no obvious reason? An American contractor and American service people one was murdered and others were injured. That was the reason. It's obvious that's the reason. He even called off another airstrike because there were civilians in the area, specifically women and children.
Putin responded by challenging Biden to a debate, which honestly would be worth watching.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know you would watch with your pants around your ankles. I mean, you'd never even hear a word out of Biden's mouth. You'd just be kind of like, what is Putin? Listen, translator, speak faster.
I want to hear Biden out, though. So let's take a close look at Russia's record. Very upset about Russia. What have they done? Well, they've committed genocide. They've bought up the entire third world in Africa and Latin America.
He's talking about China, by the way. This is the whole like, oh no, that's what China's doing. Watch, he'll do that.
Literally building all the infrastructure in the Bahamas. In our hemisphere, they're stealing our jobs, our intellectual property. They're dumping.
Let's remember, by the way, Stephanopoulos was asking specifically Biden about Russia. He wasn't saying who's our biggest threat in the world, who, you know, and he just blew off talking about China. He just brought up Russia. That's the premise that Tucker Carlson is presenting to you, that he should have just gone, well, Russia. Those are fine. They're lovely people. China's the problem. That's what he's presenting as his argument. Therefore, he can and by the way, he always looks that confused, except when I suppose he's yelling at his family.
Tons of fentanyl into this country, which has killed more than 100,000 people. They filled our universities with spies. They're trying to dominate the world. Oh, but wait, that's not Russia.
Oh, but wait.
Russia didn't unleash a virus that destroyed our economy.
Oh, they unleashed a virus that destroyed our economy. So the virus was unleashed they did it on purpose. They set it on us like dogs. Therefore, Donald Trump was president during the time when America had the largest and greatest bioweapon attack in its history that killed over 500,000 Americans so far. And Trump's response was to sell them the largest order of beef, corn, and soybeans they've ever purchased. I mean, honestly, Chamberlain's entire family must just be upset that they can't we just call it, can't Trump be the example now?
And left millions unemployed. China did that. China and the dictator who runs it, Xi Jinping. Joe Biden knows this. He knows Russia isn't an existential threat to the United States, but he keeps talking about it because he doesn't want to talk about China.
They did talk about China.
His family has made millions, apparently.
Millions, apparently. That's the apparently. Notice the apparently part?
From China.
Apparently. We said apparently, Your Honor.
Countless others in the corporate and ruling elite have too. But
the corporate and ruling elite. Oh, you mean Don Jr. and Eric and Trump?
It's Putin who's going to pay.
Well, he was asked about Putin and whether he's a killer, and he is.
And not just Putin. You know who else is going to pay? You.
Well, obviously we pay. If there's any military response or cyber response, our tax dollars pay for that, sure.
About to pay a lot more in taxes. Biden told us that as well.
Again, the tax issue with how you're going to pay for the stimulus package, whatever. People over 400,000 might see a tax hike. The expiration of the Trump tax cut, which was temporary, remember, for individuals, they're just going to let it expire.
Yes, anybody making more than $400,000 will see a small to a significant tax increase. If you make less than $400,000, you won't see one single penny in additional federal tax.
An additional federal tax, right? And the number he's talking about used to be 35. Trump took it to 21. They want to bring it to 28. The idea was, and everybody, like Powell, everybody in the Fed, all that kind of stuff, and the economists were all like, you could stimulate the economy and do a lot of good if you just took it from 35 to 28. Just bump it back down to 28, and you'd have a slight stimulus effect. And Trump and the Republicans, because they knew they'd only have one shot at it, dumped it down to 21. And it's going to get back up to 28.
So what Biden didn't explain is why he wants to raise taxes. And by the way,
because during Trump, we had $1 trillion deficit every year. And the Trump tax cut was as expensive as the entire COVID relief package that we just passed.
Wait, we're not going to give you the conventional conservative take on taxes, the Grover Norquist take, which is, you could never raise them. That's not the point at all.
No.
The point is much bigger than that. The point is, why do we have taxes in the first place?
Okay, so I was wrong. I thought at least there'd be the causation and correlation idea and conflation stuff. Now, literally, we have gone from, by talking tough about Russia, he's ignoring the existence of China entirely, and therefore his raising taxes doesn't bring up whether or not it's too much or too little or whether it's important, but just why have taxes at all? Like, plain and simple. What?
At this point, we don't fund the government with tax revenue. We fund it with money that the Federal Reserve creates. How do we just pay for a $2 trillion relief bill? It wasn't tax money that did that. We just printed the money.
No, we didn't. They bought back a shit ton of securities in the last year. A lot of it is grants and loan guarantees. We didn't print that money. It didn't go into circulation. A lot of it was taken in. The Fed was taking in securities during COVID because the world was going to shit. The economies all around the world were collapsing. China was having problems. They were selling their securities back to the Fed. And the Fed takes them in. They don't go, well, we've got this $10,000 bond, one of 400,000 that this particular buyer had. They don't go, well, let's hold on to them, and that money stays printed forever. They shred them. They go off the books. And I was about to say Tucker knows this. I don't know that he does. I always thought the confused and stupid look on his face was actually an act. I'm not so convinced anymore.
So actually, taxes are kind of beside the point.
No, they're not. They're how we pay the interest on it, and they actually are how we fund a great many of the programs that we have.
At this stage?
No, at this stage. At this stage, you mean in America, having a country?
Democrats could tax all the income in the United States, and they still wouldn't balance the budget or pay off the debt. In fact, they'd be about $10 trillion short of paying off the debt.
They'd be $10 trillion. Or you could, if you taxed everything in the country in 1 year. This goes back to what I tell you about the economy. $21 trillion. You tax all of it, and what does your house cost? Now, I guarantee, unlike you and I, more than likely, except for tax purposes, Tucker Carlson does not have a mortgage. He owns his home outright. He's a multi-millionaire working for Fox for years. Whatever his house cost, it's been paid off a long time ago. If he sells it back to himself through a series of bullshit LLCs so that he can pretend to be paying rent on a mortgage that another company owns that he actually is the CEO of, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But for the record, this asshole doesn't have a mortgage. So his budget, his whatever $12 million house, $15 million, whatever it is, I don't care. He could basically pay off his mortgage 5 times in 1 year. More than likely, unless it's up in the 20s or something. And even then, it would take a couple of years. So the idea that since we have a $26 trillion economy and the debt's $38 trillion, the world is going to collapse. Well, if you made $200,000 a year and your house cost $300,000, would you be in this state of panic about your bills about paying off the house? No, you'd pay the interest and some of the principal, and then over time, as best you could, if you try to raise the money that you're making over the year, so eventually if you're making $300,000 a year by not spending more or giving less out, which would be the tax cuts versus what you're spending on stuff, you would bring up your income to match the actual full cost of what it is. You could, over time, you stimulate the economy enough, and you take taxes off it, and you work that balance so that you get it up to the area where the American economy could get up to $30 trillion. There's absolutely that amount of productivity in the country, especially selling worldwide. There's nearly 8 billion people in the country, or in the world, and you could sell, every American could have an Etsy business that sells enough to qualify to make the country a $30 trillion economy. It's that huge. There's that many frigging people on the earth, right? Not to mention the people who ship that shit everywhere. So the idea that he's like, with $21 trillion, we'll never be able to pay that. We'll just print money to get rid of it. This is such a cartoonish, like, YouTube zeitgeist bullshit, audit the Fed 1998 view of how the economy works. Next thing you know, he's going to start talking to us about the gold standard like a dipshit.
They could go after your assets like your home and your savings and retirement accounts. Maybe they'll try that.
He means death tax. That's the wink and the nod to the death tax.
Elizabeth Warren has been trying that for a long time. But the question is, since we're not funding the government with tax revenue...
We are. We're not funding, technically speaking, the emergency we're in with tax revenue. We're borrowing to fix that in the same way that you would take a loan out if your roof collapsed. And you're not funding the roof collapse with your salary. You're paying your mortgage and all that kind of stuff, and then you're adding that extra cost onto your mortgage, because if you don't fix the roof, the whole house is worthless. And so all the money you put in the house falls to shit. But let's understand, Tucker Carlson and the Republicans and everyone like him treats America like they're renters. This is the Republican way. The Republican way is they're renting America. Democrats treat it like we have a mortgage. We want to maintain the quality of it, and we want to make our payments so that we can stay in it for a very long time. This asshole and everybody like him is waiting for the best time to cash out. I mean, I would be shocked if he was one of the few people that works at Fox that doesn't have a Cayman Islands bank account.
We've decided that modern monetary theory is real. We could just print money because we're the reserve currency.
Yeah, that's not what we do. It's the illusion of what we do. It's the idiot's version of what we do. It's how everybody talks about it. But if you had Jerome Powell sitting there, or Janet Yellen, or anybody who's actually seen how the Fed works, they'd go, yeah, that's the cartoon YouTube dipshit way of talking about whether because we print money, but that's not how money comes into existence. We loan it into existence to certain banks so they can loan it out, and they make a profit on that. And then they return the money back to us, and they keep a portion of the profit. We keep whatever the baseline yield is, as far as the interest rate on it, 0.25 currently. That's what the Fed makes on all loans and all money loaned into existence. That goes into federal coffers and helps us fund other stuff. And that's where the idea of an infrastructure bank comes up, because if the infrastructure bank can loan money out and it's a federal linked bank, then the money it makes can be loaned out for projects by cities and states and all that kind of stuff. And as they pay it back using their tax revenue, they pay interest on that, and that interest adds more to the federal coffer that the infrastructure bank could go to federal infrastructure projects, and it would be enough to keep all the bridges stable and add to, and then eventually, if it's as functional as everybody thinks it could be, you could pay for major highway projects alone just on the interest gained in a bank that size. But I'm sorry to talk about things in such a normal and logical way when we're in the presence of a man who's literally making a living off of the 2 lines in his forehead because he lives confused.
Why would you even consider raising taxes on families making $400,000?
because they weren't harmed during the pandemic as much as everybody else, and they can afford it, and we can write that debt so that their $400,000 plus investment in the country doesn't go in the shitter because the entire country collapses. You know, because if you make over $400,000 a year, or you make 500 or $1 million or whatever that is, you kind of need airports and roads to work. You need the FAA functioning. You need a Homeland Security Department that actually works, so that in the course of you doing business and carrying on your life, you want background checks to be federally funded and make sure that they're secure, so some random asshole while you're meeting with a client for the first time doesn't wander in as a disgruntled employee who should have never been given a gun and walk into that office and shoot you and the secretary because he's mad at the boss who's not even in the building that day.
Why do that?
Why do that? To her. By the way, this is a millionaire complaining that he doesn't want to pay any taxes at all. That's what we're really watching.
At this point. You don't...
At this point, yeah.
Need to punish you, obviously.
To punish you. That's what it is. The Democrats want to punish you for your success, America.
Individual Americans paying taxes make up the largest part of U.S. tax revenue. They account for about 42% of all the taxes the government takes in. What's the smallest source of tax revenue? Oh, the donors, corporate taxes. Those account for about 3.9% of all taxes.
Oh, so that's why Trump made, when he had his tax cut go through, the corporate tax cut was permanent, and I see. That's weird.
Joe Biden.
Do you think maybe that in his tax plan, while there's there's personal taxes, he's talking to individuals and people, that within that they're going to move to rescind the Trump tax cut for corporations. That's part of the tax package as well. But please, I'm sorry, you were busy ignoring reality.
Biden knows that tax increases aren't going to hurt corporations or private equity firms. They won't touch Ivy League endowments. They'll leave the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation completely alone. No billionaire is going to suffer.
It's a foundation. Those are charitable organizations. What kind of an asshole makes a living by siphoning money out of his charities? Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Let me see. Is there a, let's see. Trump, whoops, sorry. Trump dog charity. Let's just look that up. I mean, never mind the fact. This is The Guardian, so it's Brits. I don't know how seriously we want to take what the Brits say. Laura Trump-linked dog rescue charity spent $2 million on Trump properties. Florida-based Big Dog Ranch Rescue has spent as much. You think this was a setup just so she could buy a ranch? Friggin' hell. $1.8 million on fundraising costs for events at Mar-a-Lago. While other companies and groups have distanced themselves from the Trump since January 6th attack of the Capitol, Florida-based Big Dog Ranch Rescue is expected to spend another $225,000 at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago Country Club for an event this weekend. That's the one we showed the video from. According to a permit filed with the town of Palm Beach, which was reported by HuffPost. That's weird. Internal revenue filings show that the charity has spent $1.8 million on fundraising costs for events at Mar-a-Lago, a nearby Trump golf course, since 2014. Laura Trump, who is married to Eric Trump, no one knows why, has been chairwoman of the charity events since 2018. Donald Trump's foundation, which was dissolved in 2019. That's weird. And Eric Trump's Eric Trump Foundation. Where did he get the name? I mean, the creative. I can't even keep up. Are known to have used money from donors for events and other expenses at Trump properties. Donald Trump admitted in court documents that he used charity money to buy a portrait of himself. Yes, and it's awful. But I'm sorry, tell us about foundations and the evil of foundations, Tuck.
You're going to suffer.
And by the way, I need to know, how did your mom know that Rudy Giuliani would change your name into a euphemism for playing with himself in front of a teenager? How did he know? I mean, she must have been, like, is she psychic? She's like, this kid is going to be a prick. Wait a second.
For no good reason, because to restate one more time.
Yeah, because we didn't hear you the first time. Well, no, it made no sense. Go ahead.
We don't fund the government with tax revenue.
Yeah, we do. You presented that premise. We do fund the government.
Fund the government with money the Federal Reserve makes up out of nothing.
It doesn't make it out of nothing. It loans it into existence, and it makes a profit on the existence of that money. And as a reserve currency, the expanded use of it means that we are getting back a return on simply the creation of our monetary system, which is higher than you could ever get from a gold standard. But I'm sure this asshole has Dogecoin.
That's true. And no one says it.
No, it isn't. And I don't know why anybody would say something that's that dumb.
So coming on tonight to make some sense of this Biden interview, in order, Russia and taxes, is Victor Davis Hanson, about the wisest person we know.
About the wisest person we know. Get ready for the wisdom. I don't know who this guy is. Nor do I care.
Joins us now.
But by the way, then they go to him, and what's this, Chiron? Putin is a killer and he'll pay the price. We're back at that shit? What did we just watch? That was the opening monologue for Tucker's show. We started with Biden threatening Putin, which means he's ignoring China, which went to why do we pay taxes at all, to that taxes actually don't fund the government, that we loan money into existence and it does. Do you understand what I'm saying? What the shit is that? This seems like every time we do a Tucker Carlson opening monologue, it is this weird babble of correlation posing as causation, which he just slaps together. Is it me? I mean, you guys have. All right. I'm just curious from the chat room. This part of it is nuts. And let's see what a couple minutes of what this dude has to say.
Professor, thanks.
I'm sure we'll all be riveted. The wisdom.
So much for coming on. So first to Russia, this obsession, this is not a defense of Putin's regime or of Russia or anything.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. It is precisely that.
Like that, but why?
Well, then say why it isn't. Why wouldn't you go, this isn't a defense of his position. He is a killer. He's killed journalists. He's a violent person. He's was part of the FSB. You know what I mean? You throw in those details to prove your bona fides on the statement you just made. But he didn't. He's like, I'm not here to defend Russia. But
the focus, the relentless focus on
Russia. Stephanopoulos asked him a question about it, and he answered it. And you picked that question. You didn't pick other stuff out of the interview. The interview had a lot of other things in it.
Russia.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always a bad idea, Tucker, to gratuitously call a killer the head of state with 7,000 deliverable nuclear weapons.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is nuts. This is just, why would you even, that guy's so badass. I mean, honestly, you don't.
And there's no standard. I don't know whether, Putin has not killed 20 million people like his communist predecessors. He has not, the Communist Party in China.
Was that the statement? Are we going to pretend that because he wasn't Stalin, he doesn't order the deaths of his political rivals and journalists? Doctors even? What are you talking about? I mean, you know, it's dangerous to call the Unabomber a killer, even though he killed people and because he could make bombs. And I mean, the police said it every single day. There's a killer out there. He's killed people. He's killing people. He's a killer. And he could just mail out more bombs. I don't know why we're calling the Unabomber a killer. And honestly, is he Mao? I mean, yeah, he's killed a couple people, but I mean, we're not talking Hitler numbers. Who gives a shit?
That has the blood of 70 million people on their hand and 1 million people in camps. We could go on and on with North Koreans, the Castroite regime in Cuba. So there's no standard by which you single out somebody and not the...
Here's the standard. Oh, Lord of Wisdom for the Tucker Carlson show. He was fucking asked, you dipshit. Stephanopoulos asked him about the fact that Biden called him a killer because he was. And he is. And he stuck by what he said. What are you talking about? Where is the wisdom? in this circumstance. All I see is cowardice. Don't call him a killer. He could deliver a bunch of missiles that, hardly work and aren't maintained, and he really just sends the nuclear materials in them to Iran so that they can set up reactors. But anyways.
It reminds me, though, we're missing what Henry Kissinger told us 40 years ago. And
thank God. Please quote Kissinger.
It was realpolitik. He said, we don't want China to be a better friend to Russia than they are to each one to us, because we actually do have some common interests with Putin. We're
white. That's what he means.
Wary of Islamic terrorism, and
we're both wary of Islamic terrorism. What do you think the Uyghur camps are, dumbass? The Uyghurs are Muslims. I mean, honestly, using this asshole's logic, the Chinese are way more committed than just blowing up a church with some, that some Chechen rebels took hostages in. Putin is small potatoes. If we're talking about body count, bro, that's why they're rounding up the Uyghurs. The Uyghurs there were 100,000 of them, according to the Chinese, in contact with ISIS. It was like one in every family in Xinjiang. They killed those people, all 100,000 of them, and then they rounded up the family to have a good talking to, put them in a camp. That was the idea. That's the story they've been selling for a long time around the concentration camps. What? Honest to God, have you? And by the way, I'm sorry, I interrupted the wisdom.
Both don't want China to run the world.
China's not going to run the world. And if you wanted to stop China from running the world, maybe you would have supported TPP back when maybe you would support the idea that Biden got the Quad back together. Japan, India, Australia, and the United States to deal with the fact that China's pushing the military into the South China Seas. Maybe you would understand why we would have a trade agreement with all the other South Asian countries to push back on the idea that China is the single strongest manufacturing country in the region and muscles everybody out and torpedoes all the technology, and while stealing everybody else's.
And we, along with the Russians and India, can check China if we don't.
Why do we need Russia to check China? What interest do they have in checking China? Are you stupid? They share a border, and there are Russian human beings, Russian-born, who are Chinese because they were born on the wrong side of the border. And there are Chinese people who are north of there who are technically Russian because of where they decided to draw the border. And every day they drive across, they go to another country to go to their job in town every single day. Honest to God, I know it's a chip on my shoulder having been to China multiple times and having such an affinity for the Chinese people while not necessarily being comfortable, I would say, with the Chinese government. How can I do this nicely? And I would argue that what these guys call the Chinese Communist Party is in fact no different than a simple material shift in the emperor's bloodlines, wiping out the Qin dynasty bloodline and creating a new one, because how they function is not that different from the Three Kingdoms unification by the emperor back then, where he owns half the businesses. Everybody has to give basically a tithe, which is half your business, to him, and then the other half of the business can do whatever business they can do with the rest of the world. And then if they start doing trade deals he's not getting a cut of, he'll basically shut you down or kill you. And I mean, that's how it's run. And all they decided was that at some point we're going to stop making it this particular Chinese bloodline and move it over to the Chinese controlling party, the Communist Party, which is all insiders and family. So how is that any difference? How is that any different, honestly?
Don't throw away that card. So this anger comes out of the Russian collusion hoax, but
no, it doesn't. It comes out of the fact that he murders journalists and political rivals. It comes out of Alexei Navalny being in a Russian prison right now. It comes out of the fact that Putin charged him with violating his probation because he had to go to Germany to get treatment so he wouldn't die from the poison that Putin gave him. But please pontificate, a wise one.
Even earlier, they came into power.
Even earlier? You mean like during the Cold War? I can't remember a time when
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Biden and Obama, and they said Bush was too hard on China. We're going to reset. And Putin, as the autocrat he is, he interpreted that magnanimity as weakness to be exploited. And finally, we got to the surreal situation where Obama was trading necessary missile defense so that Biden would behave during his reelection, which he didn't even do, although we gave up missile defense. So I think they're a little bit humiliated, and especially after 22 months.
I'm sorry, who was trying to completely destroy NATO? We didn't give up missile defense.
And $40 million didn't find any Russian collusion. That was a hope.
The Mueller investigation made $50 million. It made a profit because of all the seized criminal assets. And this is what Tucker Carlson, when he's digging for wisdom, this is what he finds.
And so it's just an obsession now. It's a religion.
No, it isn't. It's a material fact. He kills journalists. He's jailed his primary rival. There were people marching in the streets and they're being put down. It matters. But again, the reason he thinks it's an obsession is he doesn't give a fuck about those things. He just does not care. He doesn't care. Because Russians are white and Chinese aren't.
Yeah, and Russia's also the only big country in the world that doesn't buy our woke program, and I think that drives them.
Russia's the only big country in the world that doesn't buy our woke program? You mean they work at being racially homogenous? You mean they're anti-gay? They don't have pride marches? I mean, it's beyond the idea that that you can't have Dr. Seuss. They literally control what books are published. Tell me, they don't buy woke. Tell me how their feelings on the Second Amendment, Tucker. You're a big Second Amendment guy. You know what I mean? I mean, you probably can't shoot a rifle without pointing the butt at the target and blowing a hole in your shoulder, unless someone is there to stop you. But tell me how Russia handles gun rights and how woke they are on guns. Because I got to tell you, some of the most egregious gun rights, anti-gun activists in this country couldn't dream of a system in our country that's as egregious and draconian as the Russian system is.
They won't take the pronouns. So I have to ask you about tax.
Yeah, it's all about pronouns, whatever. But
taxes.
Yeah, ask him about taxes, please.
So we've decided that we can fund a $2 trillion relief bill just by printing the money. So clearly taxes are sort of irrelevant to run the government now.
Yeah, that was my premise during my little setup.
Why are they so eager to tax us?
Well, I think it's to punish people and tell their base that we're...
So let me guess, you talked to this guy beforehand and he helped you write the opening monologue. You're just repeating what you already told him you wanted him to say in your pre-interview?
Trying to redistribute income, but the fact...
Yeah, they're just anybody over 400,000, they're trying to punish white people for making too much money and give it to brown people. That's the narrative.
Is we're running a $2.3 trillion annual budget deficit. We're getting up to...
No, we're not running one. We're not running one. We have one because of the pandemic. We had a $1 trillion running deficit because of Donald Trump. It was half that under Biden. But as soon as Trump got in, you guys didn't give a shit about him doubling the deficit, not the debt, the deficit. Every year it was $1 trillion from 2018 on. I don't remember any kind of panic about this. And we're not running a $2.3 trillion deficit. We're not running that. We won't have that next year. The budget will be relatively normal comparatively. This borrowed money is emergency borrowing. The same thing that happens, like I said, when your house gets flooded or the roof gets blown off. Nobody thinks of home repairs after a hurricane as part of their regular budget.
$29 trillion in aggregate debt, national debt, and the only way to get out of that is either to do what Trump tried to do, although he didn't address the spending, and that is deregulate and have...
He didn't address the spending. You mean he ratcheted up the spending? He spent like it wasn't his money, like he does all the time?
Tax incentives and have full employment, but when you mention, as Biden and his associates are, that they're going to raise taxes on the productive classes, they're
the productive classes. If you make less than $400,000 a year, you're not productive, guys. You don't give anything. You don't create anything. Not, hold on, right? This is
We're going to have more regulations. They're going to stifle energy production, and yet they're going to borrow more money. Then the only way out is zero interest rates, and either inflation or stagflation or recession are all combined in the way that we saw in the 1970s that got Ronald Reagan elected. And that's where we're headed.
Yeah, this is just the second coming of the Carter administration. Is that what that's where we're going? I'm so glad we've got to that part.
We have no margin of error now. We can't borrow money to get.
We can't borrow money. Apparently, didn't you just hear Tucker? That's all we do.
Out of a recession because
we can't borrow it to get out of a recession. A 5-minute warning for dinner. Okay, thank you, my love.
We're in debt.
Dinner is soon. That's
to an astounding of
still at home with the fam, so it's understand if I cut off, it's because dinner is ready and we're having salmon.
A degree we can't lower interest rates because they don't really exist. We're already there, so I don't know what stimulus.
Gee, whose fault was that? Who was pushing us to a negative interest rate? Whose idea was that? Who was that? Who? I can't remember who brought that up. Do you guys know?
Why we have when we hit the recession, it's all been used up.
I've noticed. Why is anyone paying?
I've noticed. Why isn't anyone paying attention? Why is it just me and you, buddy?
Paying any taxes since they're just printing the money.
Why isn't everybody just paying any taxes? I understand, this kind of snide, reflexive bullshit, but the idea is you have to understand the underlying belief system with Tucker and this asshole is that we're not in an emergency, that it was basically a plandemic or, I don't know where, but if you go by the monologue, it was both not real and we're just printing money just because the Democrats, want to repeal a bunch, stop them printing a bunch of Dr. Seuss books. And also the Chinese attacked us with a bioweapon that killed 500,000 people. It's hard to keep track. But again, this, Tucker's ADD meds, I think they need to check the dosage at this point.
Burdening our kids with it.
And burdening our kids with it. Why would we be burdening our kids with it, Tucker? If we just print the money and taxes don't pay it. Oh, right, because taxes pay for the debt and service the actual costs of governing. A portion of it pays the interest on the debt, and a large portion of it pays for the actual activities. It's direct to that. Right?
Victor Davis Hanson, I appreciate your insights.
Yeah, I appreciate your insights. I don't know what they were, but I'm so glad we were here.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. Because I was so confused. My brow was so furrowed before you arrived.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jesus. All right. They're going to call me to dinner, but this looks terrible. All right. I will burn it down on Eric Trump. Hold on. Who's this? I don't need to see Abbott. Okay, here we go. This is Eric Trump talking to Greg Kelly. What more could you ask for? Do you think Greg's going to do his impersonation of Trump for Eric?
Trump Organization, and he also happens to be the son of the 45th president of the United States, and who knows, maybe the 47th president of the United States as well.
I know. He's not. He will not. He's not. Eric Trump will never, ever be president. Not that, there aren't a bunch of Bush Senior, George W. guys who'd love to have a beer with somebody. Eric ain't it. Please run him, though. Oh, Lord, please run Eric Trump. I've seen his act.
Eric, welcome back to Newsmax. How are you?
Yeah.
Hey, Greg, it's great to be back on.
Listen, it's been about 2 months.
Hasn't it?
Do you miss, does he miss, and do you miss?
I don't care about you. Tell me about your dad. He won't talk to me anymore.
The life. I know it was.
Does he miss the life?
chaotic. It was brutal at times, and the media.
Did he just spit in his own eye?
They were relentless against you guys.
I know. It was just terrible. Like, how do you even?
Sure. What about it?
Sure. Yeah, sure. It was. It was so. I mean, there's a lot of. Yeah. I mean, to me, yeah.
You miss, if anything.
Cornholio.
Well, listen, I've always said this, Greg, and I've told you this many times in person. And
yeah, we know you're repetitive and you don't have much to say, so you keep saying the same shit over and over again. We know. You can skip that part.
Frankly, on the show, but listen, I think.
Yeah, everywhere. I mean, I've said this a lot. That's the only thing I really have to say. But
my father's life is substantially better outside of politics. It's
Yeah, so is mine. Like, all of our lives are better with your dad outside of politics.
Brutal job. You saw what the media did to him.
Yeah, it's brutal. You saw what the media did to him. Yeah, they didn't do that to Obama, questioning his citizenship or his birth or any of that kind of stuff, or, you know, people posting racist memes. But he did manage to get reelected.
Every single day. I mean, you saw, the press briefing rooms every single day. You'd see the way Jim Acosta would, shout at him and scream at him, literally all day long.
So Jim Acosta would shout at him and scream at him literally all day long. I mean, how weak a life must you lead to think that Jim Acosta asking your press secretary or even the president tough questions every day, that there is a press conference, that somehow constitutes abuse? How whiny and weak and small and pathetic can you possibly be to whine about Jim Acosta? He was the president of the United States with real legitimate threats in the world. And his complaint is Jim Acosta was mean to me.
No matter what he did, he could part.
No, if he says part the Red Sea.
Part the sea, he could cure.
He could part the sea. Couldn't even, any sea. Just, in general, give me a sea, a bouncy sea. He could what?
Scream at him, literally all day long, no matter what he did. He could part the sea, he could cure cancer, no matter what he did.
No, he can't. He can't part the sea, any sea, a bouncy sea, and the bing, bang, boom, whatever else the hell you want to do. And he can't cure cancer. He's not going to try to cure cancer. There was a former vice president who, after he left office, made it his focus to try to find a cure for cancer, and they were actually working on it when he got elected president. Who is that guy?
They would find fault in it, and
yeah, they would. Yeah, it's just they hate him so much that if he cured cancer, they'd go, "Fuck that! I'd rather have cancer."
I think my father has probably a much better life outside of politics. At the same time, you see
That's a great picture. Excellent choice. You both look so happy together. It looks like neither one of you knows the other is there. It's just
the Joker that's in there right now. You see his policies, you see what they're doing to this country, and it's devastating. And honestly, it frankly hurts as a family who fought so much to better America. You see what this guy's doing with the border right now, and
yeah, it's terrible. All these kids, they're not dumping them in Juarez.
It's awful. Look at the crisis that they have at the border. My father had that problem solved. He had built 500.
Great. Yeah, I know. They weren't even coming. Obviously there was a pandemic and we had more cases than Mexico, and that was what keeping them out. But, and the wall, we built all this wall. The wall was done. He basically said the wall was done. There's a couple of gaps in it, but, they can't even come through there because there's, guys sitting there or whatever. But the wall works. The wall works, even though there's tons of people coming through. There's more people coming through than are actually coming through at this point.
100 miles.
Yes? Okay. I'm being called for dinner. All right. I'm going to sign off, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. This is the version. Mom, come over here and say hi. Save us from, hold on. We'll go over here. Yay. It's my mom, everybody.
Hi.
And everybody says, by the way, that we look a lot alike. Like, everybody was on and on about that, which I think is a compliment to me.
Yes.
Of
course.
Yes, exactly. So anyways, bye, everybody. I will see you guys later. I'm going to go eat dinner with the family, and thanks for hanging around. And I will see you on the radio show tomorrow at the regular time. So see you then. Yay. Okay, we'll sign off. All right, hold on. And there we go. Oops. Oh, and the credits need to start again. Hold on. Yes, I'm coming. I'm coming. They're calling me for dinner.
Every single character in the game just using the Joker.
Oh, you did? Wow. Well, and I didn't get to watch it?
He slaughtered him.
I know. He's amazing. We're talking, by the way, people at home, we're talking about, I got to play the outro music, and we're here we are chatting about you playing, I think, was it Fortnite?
Yes.
Yeah. No? Oh, Super Smash Brothers. I see. Just a beast. Unbelievable. All right. Thank you guys for your support today. Thank you guys to all the patrons, and thanks to everybody who gave super chats and cheered. Thank you for the hype train. Thank you for everything, and I will see you guys tomorrow at the regular show. And thanks for your patience while I'm doing the kind of, truncated version of the show while I'm visiting family. It means a lot that you guys understand. So I will see you guys tomorrow morning, regular time. Bye-bye.
I love lamb. We need you. Hell, I need you. I'm a mess without you. I miss you so damn much. I miss being with you. I miss being near you. I miss your laugh. I miss your Musk. When this all gets sorted out, I think you and me should get an apartment together.